This is not like TV, only better.
Television! Teacher, mother!
Secret lover.
What, that's it? That's your movie?
Well, I said that I had an idea for a movie.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night. This is, of course, the Screen Watching Podcast. My name is Dan Barrett, and my newly reformatted co-host is Simon Foster.
Good to be here, Dan Barrett. Good to be talking to the Screen Watchers in what we have been told is a very pacey new format. We had some feedback after last week, and the feedback was good. The people were kept awake by our new super pacey, super fast EPG podcast here. So, yeah, it's good to talk to you. Busy week this week.
So, Simon, we've got so much to get through this week, and the only place that I think we're really able to kick off from is talk about the great man himself, one Donald Trump.
Yes.
Hello, this is Donald Trump from Mr. Cohn. Thank you so much.
Donald who?
Roy Cohn, nice to meet you.
The Roy Cohn from all the papers? Yeah, you're brutal.
Guilty as charged. Roy Cohn is a crook. He's been indicted 3 times.
I'm gonna let you in a little secret. People, they hire me because I'm a winner.
How do you win?
The first rule is the simplest. Attack, attack, attack.
Danish-Iranian director Ali Abbasi has made a film that is, boy, is it very much of the time, but it's also very much of a pastime, that pastime being 1970s New York, when a young wannabe entrepreneur named Donald Trump was maneuvering himself into positions of, if not power, then noticeability in a New York that was crumbling all around him. He clearly loved his New York lifestyle, which at that point was only just starting to take hold. And he meets a man named Roy Cohn, played by Jeremy Strong. I should point out that Donald Trump is played by a terrific Sebastian Stan. Roy Cohn takes a young Donald under his wing. Cohn is one of the big power brokers in the New York political, development scheme. He is a power player of the highest order, and he essentially teaches Donald everything that we now know to be very Trumpian. This is a film that gives some insight to the man that is Donald Trump as he appears to us today, the sort of launching pad for his ambition, his irascibility, I guess you could call it, and his general disdain for all things decent. It's not a film that casts too much of a judgment over Donald Trump, as many might have hoped it would. It just tells how the man is formed in a New York City that was being rebuilt from the ground up, that he put himself right at front and center of. It also stars Maria Balakova from Borat as Ivanka Trump, and features a lot of very powerful and potent scenes when ambition and ego takes hold of the young Donald. And he, in one key sequence, he rapes his wife. He is seen philandering. He certainly walks in on Roy Cohn in the middle of his very gay lifestyle. So this is a film that doesn't pull any punches in depicting the debauchery of what's going on around Donald and how he lets it seep into his generally sort of naive ambition at the start of the film. Like I said, Sebastian Stan doesn't do an impersonation of Trump, but absolutely captures what, yes, the mannerisms and yes, the tics that we've come to know and despise at this late stage Donald, but also the younger Donald and the ambition that gets corrupted in the worst possible way. Look, this is a really energized, very exciting, deeply troubling film at times, but it puts in perspective the wannabe dictator that is currently front and center of all our headlines. I'm not surprised it struggled to find a distributor in the US, which it has eventually done so, picked up by Briarcliff Entertainment. It's going out in the US this week. But it's not a film that either detractors of Trump or supporters of Trump will flock to and react against exactly the way they may have wanted to. They wanted this to be a put down of Trump. It's not that. The others want it to be an out and out support of Trump, and it's not that either. There's plenty of drama here to make your own mind up about the man.
Yeah, look, my understanding of the distribution issues this film had in the US and some international markets isn't actually related to the content in the way that you're thinking about it in the movie, but really it's actually to do with the people that funded the movie and some of their ties with Trump. And so that actually became a bit of a sticking point in terms of they were trying to actually more bury the movie than get the film out there. But anyway, I'm thinking about earlier this week, there was a trailer dropped for the new Bob Dylan biopic starring Timothy Chalamet, who doesn't feel right for the Bob Dylan role at all, but that's neither here nor there. It got me thinking a lot about biopics and what we've seen from biopics over the last 25 years. Now, the last sort of proper biopic in the way that we all remember them being in that, it's that sort of cradle to grave story was probably Walk the Line. That film came out in 2005, so it's been like 20 years since we saw like one of those traditional biopics, because that film, it kind of killed that style of movie. It was such a big success and I had a fair bit of warmth and reception for it, but there was definitely this conversation at the time about how maybe we've overdone that cradle to grave type of story. And so a lot of the biopics that we've seen since then have been more taking sort of moments in time rather than sort of cradle to grave. This feels like a moment in time film, but it has got me thinking about biopics and what I'm interested in from a biopic. And I think that I want from a biopic is not biopics. When I look at this Donald Trump documentary, this biography film, I've got no interest in seeing it whatsoever. And that's largely because I think I've had my fill of Donald Trump just generally. But then beyond that, I don't think I really want to see like real life situations which may or may not have played out on screen. And I'd rather see a fictionalized take on that. Come up with a character who's a Donald Trump analog and go through the story that way. We'll all kind of know what it's about, but we're not going to be spending all that time thinking, have they taken too much dramatic license here? Is there, are they playing it safe? Are they just trying to do this for, shenanigans' sake or for a political pointed statement? Like, just strip all of that out there and give us a story which is telling the thematic ideas as to what you want to get out with actually doing the biopic. I don't want to see biopics anymore. I want to see something which is a more creative endeavor.
This is certainly a creative endeavor. Ali Abbasi has directed Holy Spider in the past. He's a fantastic filmmaker with a strong visual style. This is not any kind of fly-by-night biopic just to cash in on the timing of the election or Trump's rise to power. What you talk about in it being, I think if you were to take out and create some sort of fictional story around a character that's kind of based on Trump, I don't think you could do that now. I don't think you could look at it. You would only be open to accusations that say, if you're going to tell a story that's clearly based on the rise and fall and rise again of Donald Trump, but not make it a Donald Trump biopic, then you're even more open to saying creative licenses has run amok than you would be if you just focus in on Trump as it is in this one. Plus, you don't get the kind of richly sort of deep performances out of people like Jeremy Strong and Sebastian Stan.
Look, you don't need it to be based on a real person to get rich performances, Simon. Like, that's kind of a bit silly. I'm not saying that there should be just an analog called like... Well, you said that you wouldn't be able to get that. Like, that's directly what you said. But I'm not talking about an analog, which is just like a schnonnel schmumph. Like, I'm not talking...
Yeah, but sure, that's exactly what you're talking about.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying you can do something which is talking about the same sort of thematic ideals and like explore a story which is, I guess, related, but not necessarily just telling the same beats, because as an audience, you're just spending too much time just thinking, well, does this line up with the real thing that happened? Like, don't do that. Go in a much more creative direction and tell a story which gets to...
I never thought that through the film.
But I mean, you kind of are. Like, just everyone's going to be going, oh, well, is this actually necessarily true? Did Roy Cohn play this sort of a role? Was he actually necessarily there? Like, it just opens the door to a lot of real life comparisons where I just don't think that's necessarily all that interesting or all that helpful or beneficial to anyone. Like, people walk away from this with the idea of this is exactly how it was, and that's not the case. Oh, well, like, that can never be the case.
That's dictated at the start of the film when saying this is based on real people, but certain elements have been fictionalized. So that's fine, which is what you'd say at the start of the
again, but that's my problem with biopics generally, Simon. Yeah.
Yeah, but okay, all right. So what you're doing is discounting the value of film as a medium to retell true stories. You're saying that there's a group of artists who gather to not sort of hit the beats like a Wikipedia page does. You've got to give credit to the artist to bring some sort of insight to what they're talking about when they're talking about these true to life characters, and that's exactly what this film does. And you know that I'm no fan of biopics. I find them the most sort of boring of the sort of films that come across our multiplexes, but I don't find this one that way.
Yeah, I just can't imagine, because any piece of art is always a conversation between the artist and the audience. Okay, even if the artist isn't necessarily in conversation with the audience, the final piece always will be. And the final piece of any biopic will have an audience of whom are willing to go in there and tear it apart moment by moment and interrogate the truth and reality of a scene. If the point of your movie is to have that interrogation take place, certainly go for it. But I suspect that's not what this is necessarily trying to do. Instead, I think that they're trying to get some thematic truths about the people in this film, about humanity, about media, politics, and all the things that are intermixed with the business-orientated story that is Donald Trump. I kind of feel as though you can tell that story without necessarily being Donald Trump, and that gives you the creative license to be able to do more interesting, fulfilling things that won't necessarily just have your audience in constant engagement with truth versus reality within a movie. But Simon, let's move on. I want to talk to you about a brand new TV series. It's called Disclaimer. Okay, Simon, this is the absolute big show of the week from a I care about TV and movies perspective. It's on Apple TV, so it will not be as big as a whole bunch of other shows, but it will get that sort of buzzy conversation happening from the, more sort of prestige-orientated viewer. Two names I'm going to throw out there. Actually, we'll drop in a third name as well. Alfonso Cuarón. I believe you may have heard of him. Yes. Question mark.
Yes, one of the finest of our directors, yes.
Indeed. He has gone and committed the greatest sin that anybody can ever do in television, as far as I'm concerned, outside of creating a bio-based TV series. But the greatest sin that one can ever create is to say, oh, I didn't create a TV... Sorry, I don't have a Spanish accent in my vocab here, so I'm not going to try doing it. The closest I can get is doing a Antonio Banderas, but I can't say other words other than Antonio Banderas. So you'll have to excuse that. But the greatest crime that one commits is saying, oh, I didn't create a 7-episode TV show. I created a 7-hour movie. The thing is, and well-worn conversation point from me at this point, but nobody wants to see a 7-hour movie. If you've put a 7-hour movie in the cinema, you're going to get a couple of wankers turning up for it, but by and large, audiences do not want to see a 7-hour movie. Why is it permissible on TV? Most of the people are like, oh, I didn't create a TV series. I created my 13-hour movie. Most of those people, if they made a 13-hour movie, you would not want to see that. But I posit this question, which is, if Alfonso Cuarón said, hey, I've got a 7-hour movie, you know what? I'd be kind of curious about seeing that, only because it's Alfonso Cuarón, and he's certainly earned the right to put something in the cinema, which, for all intents and purposes, would actually probably be a pretty interesting, worthwhile 7-hour movie. And I'm going to say here, he's done that for TV as well. Like, the big conversation point he was making when this was being screened at, I forget whichever festival it was a couple of months ago, was saying, oh, I don't even know how to make a TV show. And based on the TV show I saw him executive produce a couple of years ago, which I forget the name of now, that's absolutely true. But he's created a 7-hour murder mystery. Well, it's not really a murder mystery. It's a mystery psychological thriller with... It's hard to say too much here, because what we're dealing with here as a TV show is, and I don't want to drop the cliche Rashomon, but I'm going to say it's a alternate perspective based movie TV series. I'm going to call it a TV series, Simon. It's definitely a TV series, even though it's a 7-hour movie. The first episode, the first installment, runs along the premise. So the logline is, a famed documentary journalist discovers she's a prominent character in a novel that reveals a secret that she's tried to keep hidden. As you get further and further into the series and see the events that took place from a number of different perspectives, there's certainly a... it's an interesting web of perspective. There's nothing you can say about this that doesn't give away a lot of the gimmick of the TV program, Simon. But what I'll say about this is, this does commit one of the great crimes in the world in that it cast Cate Blanchett out, and you know about my feelings about Cate Blanchett. Do not care for her. Outside of Tar a couple of years ago, I've not been able to watch Cate Blanchett on screen, and it's the quality of this production that makes Cate Blanchett bearable to me in this program. I really wish he wasn't in it. People who I was very excited to see is the third name I wanted to drop into this conversation, which is one Kevin Kline. Kevin Kline, I haven't seen on screen in some time. Like, can you remember the last Kevin Kline thing you've seen, Simon? On the spot.
I honestly can't. I sought him out. I mean, the last film that made an impact on me was Life in a House, and that was 20 odd years ago. So yeah, you're right. He's. I know he's been working the boards on Broadway, which was his first love, but I don't think he's been doing a lot of film or TV off the top of my head.
So apparently in the last 20 years, you may have seen him in Ricky and the Flash. Apparently he was in the Beauty and the Beast movie, and a whole bunch of other titles. No Strings Attached, apparently he was in. But the thing is, my relationship with Kevin Kline is at least 20 plus years old. So when I saw him in this, like, he really does not look like the man he did 20 years ago. It's really quite the jump for me to sort of even think of him being the same person. But anyway, he's in this. He's really great. There's a bunch of really great supporting actors throughout. Leslie Manville appears in this, Cody Smith-McPhee, Sacha Baron Cohen. This is a big, I'm not going to say lavish, but a very nicely shot, really interesting psychological, psychosexual thriller. It's good TV, even if it is a 7-hour movie.
All right, that sounds like a good time. You want to hear what maybe isn't a good time for most people, but the horror fans will have a ball with, and that is Terrifier 3.
Now, Simon, I don't know Terrifier 1 or 2.
Well, you have missed out, my friend. It is the Terrifier 1 was the origin story of Art the Clown, who had appeared in short films and anthology movies up until that point, but he got his first full on-screen bloodbath to himself in Terrifier 1. Things got a lot more ambitious and a lot more sort of convoluted in mythology in Terrifier 2. And with Terrifier 3, we have all the same characters back. Art the Clown has a bit of an offsider who is this twisted, mangled, fleshy woman whose face is sort of like this horrific just mangle of bone and blood. And he is tied in a Nightmare on Elm Street sort of way to this young woman who has gotten out of a mental health facility, is living with her sister. And you just know that anybody in this movie who isn't A, the lead girl, or B, Art the Clown, is going to suffer some horrific death. They all do. There's no spoilers there. In fact, if you're going to this movie and not expecting to see masses of blood and guts and gore flying in every direction, then you're clearly not sure what Terrifier 3 is. Having said that, I found 2 a lot more ambitious in its storytelling. It sort of went into the power of fairy tales and creating strong, diverse characters to fight the bad people. This one turns out to be just a straight up ticking clock sort of slasher movie. When's he going to open the front door and let the carnage begin? Maybe those that are really into this sort of stuff will just be happy with the carnage. I found it a little bit dull. And let's face it, I watch millions of movies in my life, and this is nowhere near the goriest I've seen. But for a movie that's getting a run through the multiplexes, it is pretty splattery and so over the top, bloody, that you'll get what you pay for in most respects. So Terrifier 3, just in time for the Halloween crowd. Yeah, worth a look if you're in a dark frame of mind. No, maybe don't watch it if you're in a dark frame of mind. Who knows how you'll come out of it? But good luck with it, everyone.
Yeah, look, I think I'm probably going to give this one a miss. I'll catch up on Terrifier 1 and 2 and we'll see how we go. Simon, very quickly, greedy people, in the spirit of I will watch any movie that stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt, particularly a Joseph Gordon-Levitt film where he's got bad facial hair. I'm very much there for that. I was there for it last week with that film that I've already forgotten the name of, Killer something or other. Killer Heat. That was the name of it, Simon.
That's the one. I remember.
This week, we've got another film with him. This is one that's playing in the cinemas. You can find it in some specialty cinemas around the place, around the country. He's starring here as a police officer. He's a bit of a redneck. He's been teamed up with the new guy that's just joined the local team, the constabulary, I don't know what you'd call it, played by Himesh Patel. Himesh Patel's got a wife at home, played by Lily James. You're going to see some other familiar faces through here. Some faces you haven't seen for some time, some that you just haven't seen for a couple of years, and they just look quite different, like Uzo Aduba from Orange is the New Black. Other people you may not have seen for a while, Tracy Lords crops up in this, Joey Lauren Adams. Also, you got some appearances from Simon Rex, Jim Gaffigan's. It's Tim Blake Nelson's in here as well. It's a good little cast. It's an interesting movie about two cops that effectively inadvertently kill someone as they go to check out where there's been a break and enter at a home. They kill the lady that's there. They find there's $1 million that's just sitting around, and so they steal the money and try to hide the crime. Obviously, things don't go well. What the deal is with this film is, can I cast your mind back 30 years ago, Simon, to a little film called Pulp Fiction that actually came out 30 years ago to this coming week, the 14th of October, 1994. So expect a lot of Pulp Fiction pieces over the next week. But remember what happened straight after Pulp Fiction? It was a whole bunch of movies that were doing Tarantino-light films, although they always got it wrong, and it became Tarantino-heavy films, and they missed the lightness that Tarantino brings to his movies. But they were all just turgid, really dire, difficult to watch crime dramas that were shot on a budget, and for about 4 or 5 years, they were the complete scourge of video stores and the Dendy. This is one of those films. It's not unwatchable, but boy, it doesn't really bring anything of value. Speaking of not bringing anything to value, I would like to mention Hellboy the Crooked Man, which is also playing in cinemas right now. This is basically a really uncreative fan film that's been released into theaters. The thing that's really, I guess, vexing about this, not necessarily working, is that the screenplay itself was, at least the first draft of it, written by Hellboy creator Mike Mignola and his longtime collaborator Chris Golden. I'd like to think that the two of them would have helped this come to the screen in a bit more of an imaginative fashion, but it's just kind of, it takes all the good things about Hellboy and sort of retains them, but then just the bad things that come from people who think they know how cinema works get laded into it, and it just kind of corrupts what makes Hellboy fun and engaging as a character. It's a dire film. I know you liked it though.
I certainly found it watchable, far more watchable than anything Joseph Gordon-Levitt does. I think his career has gone terribly off the rails, and his recent desperate grabs for attention in the Beverly Hills Cop sequel and little scene films.
I'd hardly call that a desperate grab for attention. I think he just got cast in a movie, Simon.
Yeah, it was a poor choice for him, and a desperate grab to latch onto some Netflix dollars at a certain point in his career where it wasn't going anywhere else. He had his shot at Bleeding Man stardom, and that died with The Walk, and now he's coming back. The thing I liked about Hellboy is that it was it's such a low-budget film, and there's inventiveness in the way a lot of it's done. He's no Ron Perlman, Jack Kesey, the guy who plays Hellboy, but there is a certain element of low-budget energy to it, and some fairly ambitious storytelling in the way it all comes together towards the end there. Buy the truckload as a home video absorber back in the day, and on that sort of end of scales, this one's in the top half, I would say.
Look, that doesn't make it right, Simon.
Doesn't make it wrong either. I want to mention very quickly, I watched the very first episodes of 3 new series, and I'll zing through these very quickly. Sweet Pea is the new series starring Ella Purnell from Fallout. She plays a very nondescript young London woman, which is kind of a problem because she's so pretty. She stand out a million miles away to most men or women, but she is a put-upon London admin assistant who everybody ignores, and is starting to feel urges of the psychopathic kind. At the end of the first episode, that is acted upon, and what I'm sure will unfold is a Dexter-like story about how she deals with the shame and the guilt of performing horrific acts of violence, but also how energizing it can be as well. So that's Sweet Pea. The other one I had a look at was Teacup. This is a new Yvonne Strahovski, I guess, sort of supernatural thriller. The first episode is a real setup of a whole lot of different story strands that I'm sure will play out more convincingly as the series goes on. It made for a very sort of pilot episode 101 feel about the first episode of Teacup, but with Strahovski in there and Scott Speedman and Kathy Bates, and the whole thing having a little bit of a Shyamalan feel to it. I'm keen to keep going with this one. I'll be tuning into the episodes as they drop in the weeks ahead. The other one I had a look at was the stunning Sophie Turner in the 80s set drama Joan, in which she plays a woman fleeing an abusive criminal partner and the gangsters that are after him, and now her having to deal with her little girl being put into foster care, and the friends that decide to help her out along the way. Sophie Turner is terrific in this. The needle drops, which is a term I hate, but is unavoidable in this case, is just all a great 80s music. And it's playing on your streaming platforms as we speak. So 3 new series.
You could just call them songs, Simon.
Songs, yep. All of some value.
Yeah. Very quickly, I just wanted to highlight for people who might miss out on this otherwise. I've become a big fan of Law & Order recently. I don't really care for Law & Order SVU, but this week people probably should know that the Olivia Benson character from SVU, probably the longest running American TV program at this point, does appear in Law & Order, the original series. What I think is noteworthy about this is it's not a proper crossover where the episodes, start the story in one episode and carry over to the other show. Instead, the character just appears because it's just part of the story. I think that's the way these shows should be working, because the other thing I'm doing right now is I'm doing a rewatch of Homicide: Life on the Streets. I'm a season and a half into this at the moment, and what I'm really concerned about is about 2 to 3 seasons from now is where they start doing their crossovers each year with Law & Order. And so as I'm watching Homicide: Life on the Streets, I'm going to have to find whichever service has those episodes of the crossover and then try to find those episodes, because it's not part of the batch of episodes that I'm streaming Homicide off. And it's just confusing. It's perfectly fine for the week that these shows get released, but boy, it becomes a complete struggle several years down the track when shows are licensed off to different places and you really need to put in some actual effort to try to find the programs. Just difficult. I'm sure Wikipedia will make it easy enough, but man, it's a frustration I do not need in life. The other frustration I don't need in life is the good people at Paramount have created in the US a Good Fight Fast channel. Sorry, Good Wife, Good Fight Fast channel. It's nothing but 24 hours a day, 7 days a week streaming of The Good Wife and The Good Fight. An intoxicating, just highly appealing bit of Dan bait, but it's created a logistical problem in my life, which is, hey, I've seen like a bunch of these episodes multiple times. I can just press play and watch it like from midway through an episode while I'm cooking at night. The problem is I find the show so engaging that I finish cooking and then suddenly I have to like present the meal to my family who are there wanting to eat, while they have to sit there watching me in the corner watching my Good Wife episode because I just need to see how the episode ends.
True boring story. Hey, the other thing I want to program preview is a thing called The Last of the Sea Women. Now, this is an Apple original documentary. It's produced by Malala Yousafzai. Yousafzai? I hope I got that right. I clearly didn't. We went to Korea's Jeju Island a couple of years ago, and these real-life mermaids...
True boring story, Simon.
Of South Korea are revered there, and this looks at the dying skill of deep sea diving from which they make their livelihood. It's a stunner. It's on Apple TV. Definitely worth seeing. The other thing I want to question, and have you been paying attention, is a big favourite in our house, got the Logie-winning Australian comedy current affairs show. It has become overrun by product placement. The guest that they have on the show that is then topped and tailed by an ag segment with this guest's project involved is just getting a little bit on the nose. Big fan of Tommy Gleisner and Ed Kavalee and Sam Pang, the 3 main, ones at the middle of it. But it's just becoming a little bit too noticeable that these guys are in it for the cash over anything else. So let's sort of ease back on that, guys, that are working dog. And I think that brings us to an end.
Yeah, I've hated that program from the beginning, and my hatred just intensifies year after year on it, Simon. It's just so scripted and edited to lose all life and value from it.
Disagree. It's good for a giggle. I like the meta comedy in our house. We watch the Gogglebox as well, which is also clearly scripted and edited in such a way to provide laughs. But there's an immediacy about the comedy and about the reactions that we have a good time with.
No, pass. Anyway, folks, this has been Screen Watching. We'll be back next week with more opinions that just annoy each other. Folks, if you want to find me, check me out at alwaysbewatching.com. It's a newsletter that comes out Monday through Friday. There's also the Always Be Streaming newsletter, which drops on Thursdays or Fridays or Saturdays, whenever I can find some time in my day to knock it out. Simon, you do some stuff as well, I'm told.
I do some stuff at the screen-space.net page where I do all my long form writings. All the Screen Watching fans can follow us at Screen Watching Podcast on Facebook, at Screen Watching on YouTube and Threads, or give us an email at screenwatchingpodcast@gmail.com. And we have our other podcast happening in the works at the moment, currently going through some production stages. Best Movie Year, 1987. So look out for that one, not far down the track.
Yeah, indeed. It should be out in the next day or two, actually, Simon. Actually, we'll say Wednesday this week. It's going to debut this coming Wednesday.
Lovely. Looking forward to it. Bye-bye.
I said that last week. Folks, this has been Screen Watching. We'll be back next week with more of this nonsense. Folks, we'll see you then.